You're watching our first outside broadcast edition of PM Express. We're coming to you from the EC headquarters. As election 2020 draws closer, the conversation about a new voters register is deepening. Today, there's been a massive condemnation of a new voters register by some opposition parties led by the NDC, which has been described as an anti-party resistance against a new voter register for the 2020 election. Indeed, prior to today, the conversation has been on as the NDC tries to justify why a new voters register is not necessary. Let's take excerpts of today's press conference by the NDC, PNC, APC, UPP, and the Eagles Party.
If you buy a brand new vehicle and you go and park it at a fitting shop that they should repair that vehicle, what impression are you creating for yourselves? You see? So that is what they are doing. They themselves are saying that thing is credible. If it is credible, why? If it is not broken, why would you fix it? So that is why we are against it. We are not against it because we are in government or we are in opposition. We are against proposals that don't make sense. Your resources and our resources. Let us protect it.
For us, we are saying if the EC wants a new voter register, we are not against a new voter register at all. The timing is wrong. The period is not prudent. The situation is bad. Look, to conduct a new register, you need not less than 2 years to get all the documents and everything intact. If you go and bring these new machines you are talking about, and these new machines have challenges within the period, what are you going to do? Electoral Commission has recently obtained approval from Parliament to spend close to 830 million Ghana cedis to compile a new register for the 2020 general elections. The budget comprises of 443 million, that is 4.4 trillion old cedis for the new biometric voter management system, and some whooping 390 million Ghana cedis, that is 3.9 trillion old cedis, for the operational cost of the registration exercise. Not only are we unable to fathom why any citizen can go on this brazen expedition of expenditure of wasting the taxpayers' money, but also outraged by the support of the clueless majority in Parliament led by Honorable Chair Mensa Bonsu. Already, we know our old one. Yes. The challenges we know. Let's resolve to those challenges. That the evil I know is better than the what? The angel I don't know. Why are they forcing for a new register? Today, the 11th of January 2020, we shall be in Tamale for the mega Tokusai. The Dogomba word Tokusai means we will not agree. Demonstration. The conveying point will be the Tamale Jubilee Park at 6 a.m. We shall follow up with Yempini, the Santi West demonstration in Kumasi on Tuesday, 21st January 2020, and climax with, this word, Wukupini, Wapene demonstration in Accra on Tuesday, 28th of January 2020.
My guest tonight, Samuel Tete, he is EC's deputy chairman in charge of operations. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much. It seems to me that all the opposition parties, or all the political parties, if I must say, except the MPP, is the only one in support of a new voters register. Why are you still bent on going on with a new voters register? Are we in dire need of a new voters register?
In the first place, the statement that you just made is not true, because we've had a number of IPAC meetings, and all the political parties attend the IPAC meeting, and we have discussed these issues over and over again. So it is not only the MPP which is not in support of a new voters register. There are other political parties who are, we have LPG, we also have I think PNC, we have, there are a lot of them. There are a lot of the political parties.
But the
in Yoruba.
PNC is part of the
Part
party,
of the current,
the party that
yes.
demonstrated today or
Well,
registered their frustration today.
Okay, well, at the IPAC meeting, we have parties which actually agrees, they agree to the new voters register. Maybe I can actually cross-check the minutes of the IPAC meetings and then let you know the political parties which are in favor of the voters register. This comes from our deliberations during IPAC meetings. So it's not as if there is only one political party, or let's say two or few ones, majority of them. So far as our IPAC deliberations are concerned, are in favor.
But you agree that the NDC is totally in condemnation of a new voters register?
Well, they have actually made their intentions at the IPAC meetings that they are not in favor of the new voters register. But don't forget that the 1992 Constitution, Article 45A, actually gives the Commission the mandate to compile a voters register and then revise it at such periods that it may consider necessary.
But it's the same constitution the NDC is quoting for you, that you can only compile a new voters register after a population census has been conducted. Have we conducted any population census? Why are you compiling a new voters register?
Let me draw your mind back to the press conference that we actually held. The compilation of new voters register does not necessarily come after census. No. Because if you look at the history of compilation of new registers, we did that in 2012 when we were just about to go into the general elections, and then we also revised it in 2016, and then we've had history of revising the register, not necessarily compiling registers, not necessarily after a population census.
But this
so that
recent
argument,
one was compiled after the 2010 population census.
Yes, it was compiled after the 2012 census, but 2010 census, sorry, but it is not after every census that we compile voters register. If you look at the history of the compilation of the voters register, normally after using the register for every 2 general elections, it has been the practice of the Commission to compile a new voters register. So if you look at the history, if you look at the press conference that we held, for every 2 general elections that we hold, we compile a new voters register since 1992.
But isn't it ideal to always compile a new voters register after a population census? Because that is when you know how many people have died, how many people have attained age 18 and all of that. So that actually gives you the power and it gives you the data to be able to compile a correct and credible new voters register.
It depends upon the state in which you find your voters register. So you don't actually wait till you have a population census before. Ideally, or maybe to say that if you have it, it can actually give you a clear picture of certain indicators and other things. But if you find out that the state of your register it's not so good as we enter into a major elections like the 2020, it will not be prudent for you to use such a register to go into 2020.
What is wrong with our current voters register?
In the first place, all of us agree that the voters register that we have now is bloated.
How?
It's bloated in the sense that if you look at the way we clean the voters register, it is not able to give us the correct number of people on the voters register. And we all have to really blame ourselves for not taking interest to clean what? The register. Political parties are to be blamed in the sense that when even it is time for registration, you find them taking active part in busing people to go and then register. But when it comes to cleaning during exhibition, you can bear with me that the turnout is virtually very low. So the register as we have now is bloated. We have a lot of dead or diseased names on the register. And we have certain challenges looking at the cost of elections and especially the turnout. If you look at the procurement processes and other things, you find out that we look at the number of voters that we have to procure election materials, and this adds to the cost. Secondly, you also find out that with the diseased numbers on it, it tends to disorganize. It tends to lower the turnout of voters. So virtually almost every time you find out that the turnout is very low. And this is because of the increased number of disease names on the register and the inability of the EC to clean the register. So this is a serious defect of the register, which going into 2020, we cannot actually use it. There are other things also which makes it very difficult to actually use, because if you look at the BVDs that we are using, you know, the most important thing which we have actually added on, which is the facial recognition, is also not there. So all these things add up to make the register not so suitable going into 2020.
What were your challenges why you could not clean the register, so much so that we found ourselves here?
The cleaning of the register, we can only clean the register during exhibition. And that is where we
You conducted a similar exercise recently?
Yes, during exhibition. And if you quite remember, if you cast your minds back in 2016, we gave 21 days. Normally it is 1 week, 2 weeks. But the commission gave 21 days because we wanted to clean the register. We wanted more days for people to come and then object to disease names on the register. Unfortunately, it actually didn't work well for us. And that is what I am saying, that it depends upon myself, you, the people of Ghana, to take a lot of interest in cleaning the register by removing dead names on the register. The way forward is that the commission is looking for a way of cleaning the register. Probably we can, in a way, talk about active and inactive names. Maybe if we find out that for 2 or 3 consecutive elections, some particular names are not actually, they are not voting. You know, you can't actually find them active. We put them into an inactive register, and then the active ones will be there. Anytime you want to activate, then we bring you back to the active register. So the commission is looking at ways in which we can actually keep our register clean when we have the new voters register.
But it's the same register, having detected some of these anomalies, is the same register you used to conduct the recent district level, ended district level elections. Yes. Are you discrediting those?
No, we are not. We are not
who won in the elections.
We are not discrediting the register. But
the register is full of anomalies.
If you look at the efforts, that the commission actually made to refurbish both the BVDs and as well as putting the register in good condition. And you can actually tell that in Elembele, for instance, there were about, I think, 500 missing names. They could not actually find their names on the register. And we had to do a second end of life in order to retrieve all those names. You know, so much effort were actually put in place to put the register in a condition that we can actually use for the DLE. And it is the same approach that we also use when we were refurbishing the BVDs. We even spent close to about 2 million Ghana cedis refurbishing the BVDs that we used. So if people even argue that we had failure rates of the BVDs to be very low, you find out that it is absurd to spend so much money refurbishing an equipment rather than maybe going in for a new equipment.
But the suggestion by the NDC is quite simple, and they say that, okay, because there's no consensus at this time, their suggestion is for the Electoral Commission to constitute a technical committee made up of all the political parties, plus the EC's own technical committee, so that you can sit down in Jojo and come to a conclusion on this matter. Isn't it a good suggestion, or it's just that the EC is not interested in listening to the political parties?
No, we have been engaging the political parties. We've been engaging the political parties on all the processes leading to the acquisition of a new biometric solution. And if you will cast your minds back, even the demonstration that we did, the political parties were written to, and they were asked to go to Coconut Grove Hotel for the demonstration by the vendors. That particular meeting, unfortunately, you quite remember, NDC actually held a press conference on the grounds. And this was also counteracted by the other parties who were also there. So it is not something that we've not been engaging the political parties. We've been engaging the political parties throughout the processes.
Interestingly, you submitted your budget to Parliament recently, I think in December, on this new voters register, plus the general elections in 2020. What's the status? Has it been approved?
Yes, the budget for the EC for the 2020 general elections has been approved by Parliament. Yes.
So we'll talk about the breakdown, but how does it come across to you that today the opposition parties registered their frustration, indeed, led by the NDC, including the PNC, APC, and UPP, and other Eagle Party, and what have you? They all registered their frustration about a new voters register they think is not necessary, and it's also a waste of the country's resources. And they cite a number of issues: unemployment, the economy not doing well, and a lot of things why we can channel this money into other areas rather than compiling a new voters register.
The EC is an independent organization, and it was actually set up by the Constitution. It has a clear mandate, a clear functions and other things. And we all work in the interest of what? The nation. What the EC thinks is the best is what they can do. So it is not up to one or two political parties to decide for the people of...
one or two.
Well, I because I'm not actually privy to the press conference that you are just talking about, that we have PNC, APC and all that. In fact, I don't actually know about the press conference, so I don't know the political parties who are saying that there's no need. Yes, but what I'm saying is, even if they have their view, their position, their, what do you call it, their position, definitely that one cannot actually contradict or counteract the constitutional mandate given by the EC so far as compilation of a new voters register is concerned. So they may have their reasons. You know, they may talk about maybe there are other things to do. That is for maybe the government actually to decide on what to do. And they also have MPs in the Parliament and other things, and they also approve the budget based on what we have actually sent, including the compilation of a new register. So that may be their view, but that is our mandate, and that is what we think it is good for the EC and it is good for the people of Ghana.
Recently, the Electoral Commission has been cited for not being cooperative or being intolerant with the political parties. Don't you think this is a good opportunity for the Electoral Commission to actually bring all the political parties back and sit behind the table to reach a consensus on this?
If you look at the current administration, we run an open door policy, and whatever political party is having some challenges with certain issues and other things, there is that opportunity for the party to come closer to the commission and then discuss issues. So if for one or two reasons, one or two political parties are not in favor, we still have the opportunity to meet, and that is what we do when we have IPAC meetings and other things. And even if we have the IPAC meetings, it is not only the political parties who are there. They are our major stakeholders, but we even have civil society groups and other institutions like a sister institution like NCC. They are all there and they are all part, and that is where we discuss issues and then try to reach a consensus.
You're still watching PM Express, and we are coming to you from the EC headquarters. Indeed, it's our first outside broadcast for the year 2020. When we come back from this break, we'll look at the EC's budget that has been approved by Parliament. We'll have a breakdown of that, and we'll also look at the processes that will be leading us towards getting a new voters register for election 2020. We'll also be talking about some very interesting issues that have been raised quite recently about the creation of regions. Stay with us. You're still watching PM Express, and we're coming to you from the EC headquarters. My guest is Mr. Samuel Tetteh, who is a deputy chairman in charge of operations at the Electoral Commission. He's been taking us through why the country needs a new voters register towards election 2020. Before I go into your budgets for the 2020 elections, I just want to find out from you. Hopefully in 2020, by end of 2020, we'll be conducting a population census. Would you compile a new voters register, new census, after compiling this new voters register? Because by then, I'm sure we would have seen a lot more information that you wouldn't have had, even as you go into compile a new voters register.
The answer is no. We are not compiling a new voters register after 2020.
What would you do with that information after the 2020 population census?
Well, as for data, it's there. Anytime we need the data, we can actually use it. Yes,
so if we have a lot more people, new people who have turned 18, we've been able to establish the people who are dead and all of that, you would ignore that in probably 2024, you ignore all that information and still use the...
No, the issue is they may have the statistics of maybe the age group, those below 18, those above 18, the 50, the brackets and all that. Basically, ours is compiling a new voters register, and if you are not 18 years, you cannot actually register. You know, we have our regulations, we have our requirements and other things. So their age, the age group that we have, you know, their data can actually help us to know the number, you know, that we can actually have, whether it is 18 up to 20 or 25 up to, looking at their bracket. But it doesn't actually add to anything. Once the data is there, we can still compare with the data that we have.
Let's get into your budget for 2020. Parliament has just approved how much?
The Commission presented a budget of 1.3 billion to Parliament, but 700 billion have been approved. That is the ceiling which was given to the EC by Parliament. So the EC is still talking with Parliament to find out if we can actually get the difference. But it was 1.3 and 700 has been approved.
Definitely, it starts with the new voters register that you're so much interested in compiling. When are you looking at compiling a new voters register? What are the processes?
Yes, the Commission will have it done in the first quarter of this year. So let's see, by April, the Commission will start the new voters register. And it's going to compilation of the new voters register is going to be at every polling station. What the commission will do is that in our procurement processes, we are procuring 8,000 BVR kits. That's what will be used in the registration exercise. And we are going to adopt what we call the cluster system. So for each 4 polling stations, it forms a cluster, and the registration team will spend about 10 days. All these things, we are discussing them, you know, but they will spend 10 days at each polling station. So within 40 days, we will cover the whole country, and then we will actually use about 5 or 6 days to do some mopping up. So in all, maybe in about 46, 47 days, the whole exercise will be completed.
How much of the budget is going into the compilation of a new voters register?
Yes.
And the purchasing of new biometric
Yes,
registration machines?
the compilation of the new voters register is 390,265,184.44, and that one includes the officials that we are going to recruit and train, you know, and then all the materials that we will need for the registration exercise. Yeah.
That's quite interesting. Let's talk. So what happens to the old biometric machines?
The old biometric machines will not be used. The commission hasn't decided what we will actually do with the machines, but there may be other countries who may be interested in it as a first start or whatever it is. So we haven't actually decided what to do with the old biometric equipment.
Are they that defective that they cannot?
Yes, the issue is very simple. We have an equipment which the cost of refurbishing is very high as compared to procuring a new one. 2, it has also reached its end of life. When we say end of life, you know, even the manufacturers are not manufacturing what? The parts. And the parts keeps on failing us. I hope you get me. When it comes to the BVDs, for instance, the serious challenge with the BVD is the manual the BVD is not unable to verify some voters, and that actually leads to the use of what we call the manual verification form, high incidence of manual verification form. And if you look at the recent district level elections, we have some statistics of the high incidence of the use of manual verification form, especially in Upper West and Upper East. And I have the figure here. Upper East, out of the 271,961, those who were manually verified was 7,991. And in Upper West, out of 205,758, 8,728 were manually verified. So if you look at the number of manual verification, and that is what most people are actually crying about. They are thinking that it leads to some sort of abuse, you know. So if you look at the cost of maintaining the BVDs and the constant failure of the BVDs to verify voters, then there is no need for us to continue using the BVDs. And in addition, we are talking about facial recognition, which the new equipment that we are going to procure will have. So if your fingers are not verified, then we can actually use your face. So it is an add-on which is very, very important, which is going to do away with manual verification. And the commission also believes that every vote matters. there is no way that people will go to the polling station to vote, and on the day of the election, their votes are not counted. So in a nutshell, if you look at the high rates at which the equipment are failing, and if you look at how much we are spending to refurbish them, and then the cost of buying a new one, then you can actually say that it is prudent for us to buy a new one, which is far lower than what the previous vendors actually quoted as refurbishing, and then in another breath buying a new one.
You're looking forward to compile a new voters register first quarter of this year.
Yes.
And we've had serious challenges with the registration of Ghana cards. And this is fundamental in you having a very credible voters register. Are you not worried about the situation? And would you still go ahead to compile the voters register, because it doesn't look like the whole country will get will be finished with the Ghana card by first quarter of this year?
Yes. In the first place, what we all have to understand is that the work of the commission is time bound. It is time bound. For instance, if we say that we have slated an election for 7 December, nothing actually changes it.
Okay.
You know. And then secondly, there are a lot of processes leading to the acquisition of certain, or let's say taking off of certain activities. If we are acquiring a new biometric solution, we cannot actually say we are doing it in January. It is actually way back before January. Ideally, the Ghana card would have been very good, because it eliminates this issue of the question of citizenship, you know, because at times we have challenges, difficulties in determining who a citizen is. That's the reason why we normally set up the district registration review committees. But the issue is this: if we don't start early, because I learned they are now registering in Ashanti region, and the reports that we are even getting is that they've even extended it for a week or so. And possibly there are other regions, or they may also. So the Ghana card, though it will be very good, it will solve certain problems, we cannot actually wait. So those who have it, we can use it, in addition to the other eligibility criteria or requirements.
Which are? Yeah,
the driver's license, and then old ID card, and then a passport. And if you don't have, then the Ghana card is also part. And if you don't have any of this, you go by the 5 guarantors.
Are we still not creating loopholes, so we'll come back and say that the voters register is not clean? Because you and I know that some of the eligibility criteria you mentioned, some of the cards, the driver's license is so easy to get in this country. You know that the passport, we still have Guru boys who do passport for people and all of that. So we were told that the Ghana card is the surest way to go. So if we're still going back to these ID cards, are we not coming back again to say
yes, and
the
the
voters
issue
register is not clean?
Yes, and the issue is, if the Ghana card is also not ready, what do we do? But what we also have in place is that the Commission has put in place processes to check these things. One, at every police station, we have agents over there, and we have what we call the challenge forms. So you go through the challenge process, you fill the challenge form, and it gets to what we call the district registration review committees. And the political parties are part of it. We have the GES director and all that, you know. So they sit and decide on cases which are brought before them. So the Commission also has put in place measures to deal with these challenges. The Ghana card would have actually solved some problems and would have also been good, but we still also have processes that we have put in place to deal with these challenges.
You're still watching PM Express on the Joy News channel. We're coming to you from the EC headquarters. It's our first outside broadcast for the year 2020. I've been talking to Deputy Chairman in charge of operations at the Electoral Commission, and he's been telling us about why the country needs a new voters register. He's been also telling us about the budget for election 2020 and the fact that they are still pursuing Parliament to approve all the money for the Commission to be able to function properly towards election 2020. When we come back from this break, I'll gauge his mood on one interesting issue that has popped up, though not related to voters, new voters register, but related to election 2020. The OT region, you might have heard a law lecturer at the University of Ghana accusing the Electoral Commission of committing constitutional violations by creating the OT region. We'll find out what the EC thinks about it. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching PM Express, and we've been talking to Samuel Tete, who is Deputy Chairman in charge of operations at the Electoral Commission. This week, we've had Dr. Abdul Basit Bamba, who has cited the Electoral Commission and the President as well, but he's talking about constitutional violations and blunders. And I'll read a bit of his article to you, Mr. Tete. He said, in practical and legal terms, the creation of OT region means, with Santro, Kofi, Akwafu, Likbe, and Lolobi traditional areas being made part of the OT region, will result in the Hohoi constituency falling within the voter region and the OT region. And he says it is unacceptable that the Electoral Commission woefully failed to appreciate the constitutional impediments to the recommendations of the Brobe Commission, that these areas mentioned should form part of the OT region. How do you respond to this?
Well, I think the President, His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, actually set up a commission of inquiry for the creation of the new regions. And the recommendation actually took into consideration the areas which are to form the regions. I hope you get me. And the issue was actually, after the recommendation, the issue was referred to the commission to have a referendum, and then we actually had it. So this is not the creation of the EC. This is something which the Commission of Inquiry actually recommended, and the President referred to the Commission. If there are issues with it, the Commission will take a look at it and then respond appropriately, because I think the issue is even in court.
He makes an interesting point, and I think the issue in court, in fact, I don't want to go into the issue in court because that also is on a different level, but he recommends, he makes an interesting recommendation. He says a resolution of this legal blunder should be a revocation of CI 112 and restarting the processes for the creation of an OT region that is not riddled with such obvious legal blunders.
Yes, I think the Commission will also have a look at it with its lawyers, and then look at how best we can also address the issue.
Would there be a possible revocation of this and restarting the process?
Unless we also let our legal advisors also look at it, but I cannot actually tell. I'm not a legal man.
But the EC has a legal outfit. You didn't sort your legal advice from your legal
this is a report. This is a report by a commission of inquiry which was set up by the President and His Excellency the President. And I told you that the carved out areas were also done by the recommendation of the committee, which was referred to the EC. So if there are other issues with it, we can actually have a look at it with our lawyers later.
How soon are you looking at having this conversation with your lawyers and resolving this?
I haven't actually even looked at this. If not today, I haven't actually seen this article or issue that you are talking about. Yes.
But
So,
you agree it's a serious indictment on the EC?
for now, I cannot actually say that it's a serious indictment on the EC. No, unless we also have a look at it.
So how soon are we going to hear from the EC on this matter? Because it's part of the elections and we have no time as we've already entered 2020.
Yes, we will look at it.
How soon?
Okay, currently the EC is on break. We will actually resume on the 9th. So immediately we resume, we'll refer it to our lawyers. And I don't even know whether we've even received anything on this issue. Yes, but if it is, then probably it's on the desk of the chairperson. And it will be referred to the legal team.
Are you aware that you can be sued for this?
Well, anybody can be sued, so I'm not surprised. If the EC, we are almost always we are in court, battling issues and other things. So I'm not surprised. You know, we can be sent to court. Yes.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Samuel Tete, for talking to us. He's the Deputy Chairman of Electoral Commission, and he's been talking to us about a new voters register. This is a conversation that doesn't look like it's ending, especially as we're gearing towards election 2020. It's something that we're going to be seeing more of. So stay on the Joy News channel. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our program.